Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro-Tips with me, your host, and disembodied hands Quindy, disembodied beard John, and sometimes a puppy named Kiki. Wow, it is dark and stormy. It was a dark and stormy morning here on the West Coast. It's not really stormy yet, but it's very windy and it's very dark out. So we're looking at getting hit with some serious rain later, which will then spread across the country and touch all of you in the U.S. I suppose. I told David he should plan on skiing next weekend or this weekend. He's not been into his skiing this year. I don't know what's up with him. We're working on Ed today. We're going to actually do some base painting first because I don't want wet green stuff when I'm working with sand because sand gets everywhere, folks. You might not think it would make its way up there, but as you're trying to dip this into places and put flocking on stuff and things like that, until you get all of this nailed down, there's always the risk that wet green is going to pick up what you're working with on basing materials. Like you don't want static grass, we don't want a furry skull. We don't want static grass clinging to our emanation, so instead, we're going to work on our basing first. That is the way I'm going at it. Other than that, why do I have 2 bottles? Not 1, but 2 bottles of Corporeal Shadow out here. No idea. Just trying to organize myself here. I made myself put away a lot of different paint lists yesterday, but I didn't quite get everything. Yeah. Yes, right, exactly, Quindy. I sometimes feel that is the case. I should have primed my little brazier for Kirindra yesterday when it wasn't going to be super humid and rainy. Instead, I forgot. So we'll just have to hope that the raininess is minimalized at some point during my coming weekend. All right. What we got? We got an Ed. Yeah, we don't have a lot of ambient light in here today. It's quite. It feels quite dim except for my little circle of intense light here. All right. So we're gonna do some earth and some stone, and I do like to start dark on that stuff. It's going to make our skulls and skeletons stand out a lot more if we start very dark with our stone and our earth. So I'm going to start with walnut, and then I'm going to go over the walnut with some dark gray where the stony parts are and just across some parts of gravel and things. I'm going to make that judgment call after I get it all base coated, though. I like to use walnut for a base. But yeah, when you're trying to make bones stand out, and we may actually go and brighten up these bones even a little bit more. We'll see how much they stand out once we put that dark color everywhere. But you can always get lighter. We can always dry brush up and layer up our surrounds. And we're going to be putting some grass. I'm going to be using the color that I use for dead grass, which is usually... It's called burnt grass or it's called wasteland tufts or whatever. I'll have to grab it and we'll get the exact name later. But the brown ones, essentially, the darker brown ones. So they're kind of a medium brown, but they're not the really light ones because I like to dry brush my my basing. All right, so this walnut, we're going to need a big puddle of it. So I'm going to put 5 or 6 drops out there. Just going to put 1 drop of water in it. You don't want to thin it a lot because you actually want it to help seal this cork and stuff onto the base. So I just feel that a base looks good if it's got, it's hard to get the darkness on there. Like you could put a wash on stuff after you base coat if you base coat in a medium color, but it's never going to give you the dark effect that that you'll get from starting with a very dark near black color. So if you're trying to make lighter stuff on the base stand out, then I highly recommend starting dark. You don't have to start with walnut. You could start with carbon gray if it was a very stony base. Like this one, I could have started with carbon gray. I tend to like to work my grays on top of browns, though. You could also do the opposite, though. You could have start with carbon gray and then work up with other browns. It works either way. Because usually the earth that we see is like a combination of browns and grays and reds and yellows, depending on where you are in the country. Or in the world, one should say. So I'm going to thin that with 1 drop. It was about 5 drops of walnut. It's nice and thick still. I'm going to use, I'm going to drop my green stuff on the floor. I don't want to use my my mixing brush, much as it is a big brush. I think I'll grab a larger brush. Stay green stuff. I may need you later. I do have a giant brush here, so it's a number 2. Let's see if I can get it to behave. Oh, yeah. It's my number 2 Winsor Newton, so it's a big brush. But it's also got a big belly, so it doesn't necessarily, until it's got paint in it, it doesn't always like to hold its point. That's okay, Karinico. Oh, and of course I don't have, I had taken my base that I had Ed on and put Corindra on it. So let me plop Ed onto a block of something so that I can not handle the outside of his black base as I'm painting. But yeah, it's a day, it's the last day of the month. There we go. Just kneading the blue stuff so that I can make it spread out nice and thin so that I can reach out and grip that big base. So I'm trying to follow my writing coach's directive to like establish a routine because my discipline will love it. But I'm having issues because I'm trying to do everything at once. So instead we're going to put this band across here. And since the base is so wide, we're just going to center the base on the blue stuff here, guys, so that it'll hit it and hold it. And we definitely want it as a heavier base. So I'm going to curl the blue stuff up around the edges here. So what I'm doing is like trying to habit stack. So I have to build one habit, and then what happens is, and you can use this for your painting habit, you can take a habit you already have and stack another habit on top of it. So essentially, once you've got one habit really cemented, say you take a walk after supper, and after that you really want to sit down and paint before you settle in to watch TV later, or Netflix these days. So since you have the habit of the walk established, what you do is you put a reminder of, your painting, you essentially, when you come in, you make yourself right away go to the painting desk and set up and sit down and do your 20 minutes of painting. And over time, essentially coming back from your walk becomes the trigger to go paint. It doesn't take that long. I mean, most people, you just got to do it, right? And don't worry if you fail. Like if you try this kind of habit stacking and it doesn't work, don't think that it's not going to work. Like if you fail a couple of days and you feel like you're struggling, just keep going back. You're not going to rebuild Rome. You're not going to make it happen all in one day or in a couple of days. And failing is normal. Like not being able, something comes up, you get distracted, it happens. But as long as you keep going back to it, you eventually build up that habit. And then your walk becomes the trigger to go and paint, which is great because then your brain's like, all efficient. We can just go do this. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to bargain about it. We're just going to go do it. So I'm trying to essentially habit stack my writing. I was trying to sit down and have my writing stuff and figure out a time of day that made the most sense. But first I needed to get into the habit of always working. I figured I would get in the habit of always working on my Patreon right after lunch. Always working on Patreon or YouTube. And then once I have the Patreon YouTube habit done where I always work on it right after lunch, then I can string the writing habit right off of that. Because trying to figure out both at one time was just too much. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to stick. And the Patreon and YouTube stuff is more important because it's my direct income, whereas I'm not making very much from writing yet. Oh, I need to unfuzz. Unfuzz. Yeah, I think they call it habit stacking. It's a thing. It's a thing where you just build one on top of the other. Oh, no. Oh, interesting. Red Cross. 2 miles per day for all of February. That's really cool, Kodiak. Yeah, 2 miles. I go about 1 mile and 2/3, I think, every day. On a good day, I'll get 2. But yeah, that sounds like a great... Then you need to take a break from the keyboard. Zachariah, you need to get one of the dictation things. That way you can still, like, you know, talk to us all. But it'll, like, you don't have to hit the spacebar. But yeah, 2 miles a day is also not an undoable goal. Like, it's very doable in like 40 minutes or even more, depending on how fast you walk, or even less, rather. I think my normal walk day gets me about 1.5 miles to 1 mile and 2/3 is about a 30-minute walk. Cornica. Yeah, all that repetitive stress stuff can really mess you up. Especially because we're mostly doing repetitive stress stuff with like the worst posture on the planet, right? My lower back has been like giving me like twinges lately, just because I've been abusing it a lot. And then last night I made it do deadlifts, lots of deadlifts, 25 deadlifts. I did 95 pounds, guys. It was a new top weight for me. I almost did 100. 95 was definitely hard. Like, I ache today. I am sore. Oh, that's cool, Kodiak. Ah, yeah, there we go. Yeah, and you're doing it in Yeah, that's great. If we've got a set time for it and you do it, like by the end of that Kodiak, you might just want to keep up with it. Of course, and it'll be getting nicer out, right? Like, because by the time you're done, it'll be March. And then hopefully the weather will be not quite as horrific. So you could turn it into a regular walking habit. I've recommended this book before, Zachariah, but I'm going to recommend it to you because it really does work for that kind of crap. But if you're getting a lot of pain from your working out and your unworking out, you probably just are kind of messed up as far as your skeletal muscular balance. Like, you might have a weak core, and that might be essentially causing other muscles to work overtime, which is leading to the issues. Stuff like that. Anyway, you might want to look at Pain Free by Pete Egascu. I regularly recommend this book. It's not bullhooey. It is actually really cool and based on yoga and physical therapy exercises. Some of the exercises are weird, but they work. And it can really help if you have specific pain, including pain from like in your hands. There are exercises for arms and hands, because usually that means your shoulders are constricted, essentially. The site of the pain is seldom the cause of the pain, is what I have learned. But yeah, I would recommend it. Yeah, not necessary, but I like to bring it up from time to time. It's the book that essentially kept me from getting carpal tunnel when I was starting to get carpal tunnel. And Lovejoy originally recommended it to me. Yeah, the thing about the pain-free stuff is you can just do the stretches. Like he says to do them in the morning, but I actually do them in the evening so that I sleep better. Um, I do them right before bed because it's a nice relaxing routine. Okay, so this is getting a little tight. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush here so I don't accidentally blurf up my paint job. Please don't ban you again. 16 weeks old by the end of February. Nice. Nice. Yeah, you're getting and then she's going to look like a lanky child, and then you'll get to 6 months and she's going to look like an adult dog, and you're going to be like, "What? What happened to my puppy?" The thing to remember, I'm sure Mindy tells you this too, but the thing to remember about our dog, about the Shilohs, is at 6 months they look adult, but they are not. They're still puppies. It's easy to like get frustrated with your puppy at that age because they look like they're grown up, but they take a while longer to mature than that. I made that mistake with Kiki. You know, just and I know it. Like I tell people this, but at the same time, it's easy to get frustrated. But they just become a giant puppy in an adult body. It's very, very funny, and it can be frustrating. Smaller breeds don't typically have that much of that issue. They also look like adults at 6 months, but because they're smaller, they tend to mature a bit faster. Big dogs take a little longer to mature, I think. But that's really cool that she's getting older, growing up. You're hitting milestones, like, plus she'll start issue teething yet. I think Keeks was around 5 months that her teeth started to drop out. Then of course they're growing in. I don't think Kiki actually stopped teething until 7 months, maybe 8. I should have kept track of that. If I was a smart Ann, I would have. There we go. All right, so I'm going to keep this brush. I'm going to do the areas around the skeletons and stuff. No, yeah. No, she wouldn't have stopped teething. Usually they teeth. Usually the teeth are starting. The baby teeth are falling out, and the new teeth are growing in 5 to 6 months. Right around 6 months is when the ears start going like up and down. And if the ears go up earlier, then awesome. But like it's regular that ears don't go up till after teething. At least not solidly up. I don't know if your little girl's had her ears up yet. Yeah, if they go up at all, then it's a pretty good sign. Leo had his ears pop up at like 4 months, and then they flopped again, and we were like panic. But he was teething, and then after like his teeth finally came in after 6 months, his ears went up solid. It's just weird. It's just the muscles on the top of the head and the jaw and all that, because they're chewing so much when they're teething. All right, so we've got that all blocked in around that guy, and that's making him stand out really nicely. That's good. Some Shilohs don't have their ears go up. I mean, their weak ears are in our breed. But I had one puppy, out of all the puppies that Kiri had, I had one puppy whose ears did not go up, and I asked his owners if they wanted to brace the ears, because you can often brace them and get them to go up. But they really liked the down ear look. He looked like a Sarplananek, he looked like a Leonberger, a gray Leonberger. So some people like the ears down look. we're working on the soft ears, but as we bring in new breeds for genetic diversity, we'll inevitably be introducing some soft ear genes. It was actually kind of astonishing that Kiki's stood. We weren't expecting that. There we go. So we're just being real careful and getting around this little skelly guy. Whatever nature decides, good. It's a good attitude. We did brace one of Kiri's ears. Because at that time, the breeding requirements in the ISSR, where we used to be, were very stringent, and you weren't supposed to breed your dog if their ears weren't up. So we gave one of her ears a little help, because it was more soft. It had developed a crease. And she had a slightly crooked ear for her life, but it was part of her charm, in my opinion. But yeah, she's a cutie. She's a cutie, Kodak. I'm really glad you're enjoying her. Are you going to do anything with her, like nose work or rally or stuff? Dog stuff? Dog related stuff? Being real careful going around these little tiny hands. Oh gosh. Yes, small, elegant, well-disguised dogs. Yes. We're doing a little scent training with Kiki. We have her find treats and pieces of cheese. Outdoors and indoors. It's going to help when all these rainy days pop up. I don't do anything like competitive. Oh yeah, you definitely should show. It's actually, our dogs do really well as puppies in these rare breed shows. I used to really love going when I had a showable dog. Because, I mean, Leo got his championship and Kiri was champion pointed. And Blazy got her championship as well. So I used to show a lot, actually. It's nice because it gets our dogs out where the public can see them and where the judges can see them. And it's fun. Bring a book. Expect to wait around a lot. It's one of those military things where it's hurry up and wait. Because, until you get called for the ring, you're just kind of hanging out. Yeah, nose work could be fun then. Yeah, showing is fun. I find it fun. I mean, and our dogs, like I said, our puppies are usually pretty well put together. And they do pretty well at shows when they're younger. Because a lot of breeds take a long time to kind of come into their coordination, but Shiloh puppies are actually pretty, especially for a big breed, they're pretty coordinated. But yeah, the best thing you can do is honestly just not get nervous about the showing and just have fun. Just try to get her to have fun. It's good socialization because she has to stand while a stranger handles her, right? I found it to be excellent socialization. She also has to get used to there being other dogs around, strange dogs. She gets to travel in the car, and in my case, we did a lot of kind of road trips, right? So we would actually stay overnight in a hotel and everything, and that was good practice for our dogs too. So I'm very pro showing as far as a good socialization experience. Well, I hope she does well. Definitely report back how it goes. Hopefully you get some good judges. Nose work is fun because you can just start it with treats. You can just put a treat next to a table leg and tell her to find it. Try to encourage her to find it until she learns what find it means, and then she'll want to play find it all the time because there are treats. All right, I've moved up to a thicker brush, a Reaper 0. I do still have a little bit of kind of unpainted bit next to his rib cage. I don't know. I'm going to try to get in there. Yeah, nosework is a dog sport, so you can definitely go and earn like titles with doing it. But you can also just do it informally around the home, and it's a good way, especially on rainy days when maybe they can't get out and play as much. It's a good way to burn off energy. That's why we started it with Kiki. The problem now is just that we usually did it in like kind of our front entryway where we have a couple trees, and we have some area. But she's learned all the places we tend to hide the treats now, so like it just goes methodically to each place and sniffs. Oh yeah. Well, it's cool that your wife's in. Is she going to show her then? And is the venue you're going to IABCA? Yeah. Sometimes the dog shows better with one or the other parent. When we had Leo in the ring, Zach, my ex, used to show him. He was the one who started out showing Leo because Leo was his dog. But the problem was that because Leo loved Zach so much, they would walk in the ring and he would just be so happy to be with him that he would just bounce. He would just like leap and bounce and jump. Oh, he was like a kangaroo. Zach couldn't get him to like settle down and trot. So I ended up being the actual show person, which is sad because Zach was much better at the whole stacking and presenting the dog than I was. But I guess I learned over time. But yeah, Leo definitely showed better with me, even though he loved his daddy so much. Because he loved his daddy so much. Is he in Ohio? It's probably IABCA, if it's Iabaka, as we call it. The nice thing is, whoever's showing, just you can tell your wife this, but they're really newbie friendly. Rare breed shows are, and if she just shares with the judge when she goes in, she's probably going to be nervous. Just have her tell the judge, "This is my first time," and usually the judges are really really encouraging of new people. Sometimes you get a bad apple. That's true in life anywhere, right? But if she tells the judge, "I've never done this before," the judge will probably, be nice and help her out. And she'll, there are 4 shows a weekend, so you get different judges. But usually they're really cool. Some of them will just explain exactly what they're doing. Some will just be really patient, and especially with a puppy. But they'll give you some good tips, too. Because they'll usually tell you, oh, it'll help if you hold your leash here. Oh, it'll help if, you do this. Try doing this instead, in general, I think in all my years showing with IABCA, because most of them are AKC or UKC judges, they're real judges. They're just doing this as a sideline. But I think I only ever ran into one judge who really was rude to one of my new people. Sadly, that meant that new person didn't show anymore. I wanted to really give that guy a piece of my mind too, but I also have met some judges who really became friends over the course of like showing my dogs that just really liked our breed and were happy to see us in the ring. So yeah, I hope you have a good experience. Oh yeah. Puppy category is always fun. Like you will find those people, especially with like the mini Aussies and some of the smaller breeds that even at 4 months have already trained their dog to be like the little robot show dog. But in general, there are always those cases that are not that. So do your best to teach her stand, and she already goes to puppy class, so she'll be used to like focusing on you instead of the other dogs around her a little bit. But come with a sense of humor when they're babies, for sure. For sure. And most of the judges are going to know that. They're going to have a sense of humor about it with a young pup, Especially, they know that bigger breeds take longer to mature, so the nice thing about the rare breed venues is that they're so casual compared to AKC. Nobody's in a freaking suit and tie. It's, or if they are, it's the judge. Maybe you get somebody who's brought their AKC dog to get, titles in rare breed as well. Sometimes you run into those. Those are the ones that we were always complaining about this one corgi. He was like an AKC Grand Champion, but his people really loved to show it at Iabaka, so he would come out and get his rare breed titles, you know, his Iabaka titles as well. And he was just a monster. He was like a Grand Champion AKC dog. Like beating him was hellish. Yeah, smurfing, totally smurfing. Yes. People do it. I mean, some dog breeders and showers and owners are just like so into showing. They just love accumulating as many titles as they can. That's fair. It's cool, but it can get frustrating when your dog is like always competing against that for best in show. Like Leo ended up with about 8 best in show wins throughout his career, but I know we lost to that dang corgi at least 3 or 4 times at shows we were at. I can't complain though. It's a lot of best in shows. We were lucky. Our first dog was like a really good dog. Beautiful dog. But yeah, it's fun. It can be fun. It's a nice weekend. Like, I always just treated show weekends as kind of a relaxed weekend. Because, you know, you bring your book or you bring whatever, you're just chilling. Except when you're in the ring. You get to chat with other dog people. If it's in Ohio, maybe Mindy will come. Is she going to bring her dogs too? Do you know? Because that's nice when you've got somebody with you who can, you know, help you. And Mindy's really into showing. Like, she's probably the breeder that's most into showing right now. And so she's got a lot of experience and she's taught a lot of people. Yeah, that'll be cool. Then you have somebody to chat with about stuff. Okay. So we've gotten most of our dark. You still see little spots. That's the cork. The cork will just be stupid sometimes and it will be a little hydrophobic in spots, but you can just grab your brush. Grab a brush that you don't care about the tip so much. My Reaper brush is kind of, and it still has a decent tip, but it's not like I'm protecting it like I do with some of my really good Da Vinci's. And I'm just going to pretty much try to get everything. And I'm not going to be real, like, super diehard about getting everything. Oh, and I missed a spot back there. I see it. Because I'm going to be dry brushing this material anyway. I'm going to be, like, you know, painting over it. And so, given that, a little bit of a speck isn't going to even register. Hey, Ultra Squid. Lurking. When I get this all kind of in, then we're going to start highlighting everything. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get. So all of our bones are standing out really well now, and I do have to, I still have to paint Mr. Skull down here, so I should prime him really quick. I'm just going to use brush on primer for that. It's just easy. When you do that, when you add little stuff to a base, obviously brush on primer is the way to go. I mean, you can always pre-prime with spray before you put them on, but doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to put a little primer. You always want to thin the primer a little bit, just a little, because brush on primer has a higher potential for clogging up details than paint does. So 1 drop of water, And you don't want this stuff, when you're done with it, you can either wipe it out, like just take a Kleenex and take it right out of this thing, or you can put extra water in it. Primer will stick. It's meant to stick, right? So primer is going to stick really hard to your palette if you're using a ceramic or a plastic. And so I usually just flood it with water so that it doesn't, otherwise it's really hard to clean up. Yeah, it'll stick like crazy to your palette if you let it. So if you thin it, if you throw a lot of water in it, then it's going to be a little easier to get out of your palette. Kiki's hitting her about her 10th day, 9th or 10th day of heat today, so after today we'll be sequestering her and not taking her on walks. She'll have to play in the yard. Every male dogs around here are generally on leashes, but I know there are some intact males around, so not taking any chances. Yeah. Yeah, it's primer. It's meant to stick, right? That's its point. It's supposed to stick to your model really well. And, it'll do the same to your palette. I'm kind of going back and forth between the primer and the gravel just to make sure I've got everything kind of clean. There we go. It's good enough. It's honestly, for the first several days, it's just fine. She'll have little blood drops. We use a Swiffer or a floor sponge. We just grab them when we see them and wipe them up. It's not like all the time and everywhere. And then, yeah, once it starts to go from blood to a more clear fluid, that's when they're starting to really go into where they can be bred. So for me, I've always just put my girls on kind of house and yard arrest during that time. But I'm sure Mindy will have lots of tips. And there's really only a fairly small window where they can get pregnant. So, but it's about 2 weeks that we keep Keeks just kind of in the yard. We play with her with other things. We throw frisbees. Instead of taking her for walks, we do frisbees, and we do flirt pole, which is the big dog fishing pole kind of thing. She loves it. She gets obsessed about it. Just going to get the eyes darkened in here and also the nose a bit. I know I'll be painting this over with a bone color. I'm actually just probably going to mix my walnut that I have with some white and go that way. Just because it'll be fast. But yeah, most dogs won't actually go into heat until they're close to a year old, but there are some that go into 6 months. It depends on the line. Whatever Nova's mama was like, there's heavier chance that Nova will be like that. So like Zammy, Kiki's mama, her cycle's normally 8 or 9 months between heats, and sure enough, that's what Kiki did this time. It's been 9 months. So sometimes it travels like the patterns travel matrilineally. Hey there, Miniatures Den. How you doing? We're just painting base today. Doing boring base work, painting our little skull here. We were talking about puppies because Kodiak has a puppy that's the same breed as Kiki. I'm just gonna get this gray going on. It doesn't matter that it's a slightly different color than our other bone. I can add some warmer browns to it. I just want to get something something on it that isn't white. Glad you got your tax stuff done, Twistedoma. It's always a pain. I have to gather all my stuff up too. Just make sure we get those little eye sockets all darkened in. And the nose. There we go. It's just a little basing skull, so it's not important to get him super tight. Yeah, that's right. There was going to be the new quarterly announced, wasn't it? I think I'm going to grab some rich leather and do that. And I think I'm going to have our first color be a brown to start bringing all of this up. I might mix some shield brown with some russet or some rich leather or both. I like to use shield brown for dirt effects because it is a little bit more gray, so it is a little more naturalistic. Nothing yet, huh? Why will you chicken out? Why do you chicken out of it, Griniko? I don't know a lot about the competition. I haven't looked at it. I put a little bit of shield brown into our gray bone color here so I can make our skull a little warmer. Boop, boop. Boop, 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 boop. Boop noises are necessary. Sound effects. Sound effects when painting. How many of you, when you're painting a monster, say "rawr" while you're painting it? I do. Also, it's never a dragon. Hey, Roger. So let's get some of this shield brown. Ugh, I got a big glob that came out of my paint bottle, so I'm just going to grab that and put it right in the palette. Nobody knows yet, Twistedoma. They're about to be announced, but nobody's announced it yet. So, yes, I do it. I do it when David hands me like a monster. I'm like, rawr. All right, so this is the shield brown. Looks really warm, but it actually is more of a faded brown than a lot of other browns you could use. Muddy brown's also a good option. 9028. We can see I'll probably end up using the color they use for the skull as a dry brush after I do this one. I like to go over basing with different dry brushes or side brushes. I'm going to use actually a bigger brush. I'm going to use an angled one. Happen to have it at hand, angle shader. Let's see if my paint is a little bit, it's probably a little bit too thin, but we'll test it. Hopefully the angle shader and the fact that it's got a sharp point means that I can use that point to get around my various skeleton guys. I can also just use a regular brush to do that and just do a little stippling, which is probably what I'll end up doing with some of the really close-in stuff. And since I thinned my paint a little bit, it's going to take time to bring this up. Let's see here. There we go. 3D printing a dragon. Seriously, which where are you getting the dragon from? Is it a Lord of the Print mini? Or is it somewhere else? Oh. You can work through that, Kuro. It doesn't mean you. It's just your mini. I know that's a big mental block that a lot of people have. That it seems like when they do something that the judging can feel personal, and it's a challenge to separate yourself from your work. But just remind yourself that you have other awesome things about you that are not about, the model, and that they're only judging a paint job. It's just something that you did. And it's also not the end-all be-all if they don't like it, because it's a personal thing, right? But yeah, it takes some mental work to get over those things, that's for sure. Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of putting their stuff out there, especially if they've had a bad experience before with a harsh judge. But I mean, judges are people who are judging are just human, and I mean, the best thing that you can do is just say, I'm just going to put this in and see how it does. It doesn't really matter a lot. It doesn't, really. It's just another way to motivate yourself. And if you end up not ever wanting to do a competition, that's fine. But if you understand that you've got, some stuff going on, then sometimes it's good to try it just to try to get over that. Depends on the person, of course. Like the goofy judge with the blue werewolf. Yeah, exactly. Was I pissed when I got a silver for a gold level paint job? Yeah, I was pissed. Did I determine I was never going to enter that particular venue again? Yeah, I never entered that venue again. But I still enter competitions. I was pissed not because it was a reflection on me, but because the judge had so little reason that they just didn't think werewolves should be blue. That was their reason. And sometimes you get that. I mean, sometimes at competitions, somebody's just not going to like what you do, and that's okay. And it's something I've had to get over, especially with the books, right? It's much as I love my books, they're not for everyone. And it's okay that people don't like my books. It's all right. David finally started reading East of the Sun. He finally did. And I'm just it's okay if you don't like it, because I know you're not my target audience, right? It's not the kind of thing you usually read. He hasn't read fantasy since he was in high school. He's very much a sci-fi guy. And so I was even a little trepidatious about him reading it, but what are we judging Kuroniko for? No, we're trying to help Kuroniko get over her fear of being judged so that she can enter the quarterly contest. Because it just means that then Kuroniko will be motivated to paint a really nice mini. And anything that motivates Kuroniko to paint a really nice mini, I'm in. Meanwhile, we're just slowly dry brushing and kind of wet brushing, side brushing our earth terrain here around Mr. Ed. Just bringing out the details and starting to get a layer of brown on here. Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's okay. It's all right if people don't want to read my stuff. It's cool. And also just coming to terms with the fact that even when people do read my stuff, they might think it's okay, or, well, not for me, it's okay. It's not a judgment call of Anne. It doesn't reflect on me, the person. And even if they did, even if they're this person seems like a real jerk, I don't want to read their book. That's still, it doesn't matter. It's one person's opinion. Who cares? Oh, well, come on now, Richard. Well, that's pretty sad, Kroniko. Yep, time to start painting. But yeah, people are silly, and if you just remember that people are silly everywhere, then being judged by people doesn't matter anymore. It's like, oh, well, one person judged me harshly. Oh, well. It's a good thing I have all these fans of me over here. You know, you kind of have a ton of us right here on the stream, Kuro. If somebody judges you harshly, we're just going to, like, look at your butterfly wing armor and go, that's freaking awesome! You just gotta, for every doom and gloom bad person who thinks that you're awful, you just need to have, like, a cheering section of us, and then you're fine. It neutralizes. We support you. Yeah, quarterly competition. Oh, you're into Monster Hunter too, huh, Miniatures Den? Nice, Quindy. But yeah, Kuro, the best antidote to, like, being judged by idiots is to have your own cheering section, and you totally have that here with us. Some people are just not going to get you, and that's all right. They've got their own shtick going on. It's not like the grand arbiter of everything in the world is going to come down and judge your miniature. And if it did, it would be kind of fun, actually. It'd be a little scary, sure, you know, but it'd be like, wow. There we go. So we're getting in there, and I'm going to go with more grays up top here, but I will put a real light brown layer on here just to start bringing things up. Oh, nice. They even allowed you. Speaking on judging. Yeah, that's just it. It's a random person. They may not get you. They may not get what you do. They may not understand sparkly Tyranids, you know? But that's all right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Kerniko. It's people from your past who essentially made a huge impact on your brain when you were a kid, and your brain is having trouble moving past that, right? But it's a different world now. Those people are no longer judging you. Most of us think you're awesome. Yeah, it is. And it's just, like I said, it's a bit of work to get past that. Because you've got to convince your brain that it doesn't, like, those people aren't here anymore. It's not helpful, right? That fear is no longer helpful. It was helpful when you were a kid because it was easier to, like, not, you know, not come up against those people. But it's not helpful anymore because now you're surrounded by people who love to paint miniatures and who love to see what you do. I love it when you post your stuff. I loved it when you posted that huge bookend you were working on. So, like, work on it. Have a good stern talking with your brain. Sit down, go, brain, you and I is going to talk. It takes a while. My fear has always been that I just wasn't going to be good enough. Like, putting my books out there, that was a huge, like, bravery step for me. By the time I had gotten to the point where I actually had to hit publish, I had managed to, like, talk myself off the ledge a little bit, right? But actually, I'll tell you, the biggest like fear reaction I ever got was when I was about to push go on the Patreon. Like, I stood there frozen in my kitchen, terrified of pushing that button for a half an hour. And finally I took a screenshot of the screen that was, go live, question mark. And I sent it to Bridget, Kiki's mom, Kiki's human mom. And I was like, what do you think? And she's like, go for it. And I was like, all right. And it just like let that little tiny burst of like, like inspiration, like override my fear. And I pushed go. And if I hadn't done that, I would not be here. Like, that Patreon kept me alive through the pandemic, right? That's like, if I hadn't started that, if I had put it off, I would have been in a much worse place when I moved to California and all that hit. Like, I may not have felt I was in a position to move to California. I don't know, right? That would have changed my entire life. Yeah, encouraging friends are the best. Yes, I'm with what Zachariah said. You are a real painter. So we've got just gently going at this. Notice that as I dry brush, by the way, I'm not doing the whole huge dry brush, I'm actually leaving more paint on my brush than most people do. And I'm just going slowly over the area and building up layers so that I bring out detail, but I can still see stuff. Oh, the rain has started. Just in time for our walk, Kiki. No, it wasn't supposed to start till the afternoon. Dang it. Well, I guess we're getting wet while we walk. But yeah, so all things considered, all of us go through fear, even me. Like, seriously, I was terrified. I just remember that. I remember that day. I even took I kept that screenshot too to remind myself. So I know you can do it, Kuro. I know you can, if you feel like you would enjoy, I know you use the RCL to motivate yourself to paint. So it feels like maybe you would enjoy using the competition as a motivator. And maybe that's the way to do it. Like, these days, I don't go for competition because I want to win. Like, I have plenty of trophies. I go to a competition because I want to, share my stuff with other people, and it motivates me to get something done. Like, that's entirely it for me. So, maybe, if you can look at it that way, this is just another excuse to paint something and get it done. That it's something that I might not otherwise paint. It could be a fun try to do it. And then just, sharing it with the competition is just sharing it with, everybody around. It's a generous act. I'll quote Seth Godin here. He thinks creativity is like an act of generosity. He's like, it's not actually about you. It's actually about the fact that you can do things that people are happy when they see them. Or read them, or engage with them, right? So to him, his whole thing is it's an act of bravery to put yourself out there, but it's also an act of generosity, because if you don't share your awesome with people, they never get to experience your awesome. And I kind of get that. I kind of get that. You can make a silly response too if you want to. No. I'm gonna just suffer. I've got a raincoat, and I like rain. As long as it's not absolutely pouring. But you know what? That's not the point, necessarily, right? That's only the point, for one thing, it's false. You paint all the time, and you're definitely getting better. Yeah, comparisonitis is just poison for everybody. Just don't do it. If I compared my Patreon to Ben Comments' Patreon, I just would fall over, and put my arms over my head and cry. But I don't, right? Because it's not the same, and I shouldn't be comparing myself to Ben anyway, right? It's comparisonitis are bad. It's poison. Yeah, and that took me a while. Like I used to compare myself pretty heavily, especially when I was in my little writing club with two other guys. Um, I would always be comparing my writing to theirs. I would always be comparing, if I was successful versus them and everything like that. Um, and I was competitive. Like I definitely had a competitive like streak. And so I'm just gonna go with my finer brush here, guys, and just kind of like get these little edge rocks. I'm gonna thin that a little bit more. Get my gray. This is my gray that I mixed with the shield brown. Yeah, and even if it was true, even if say there was something that meant you would never be as good, quote unquote, as the top three, that's really not the point if you're just painting to have fun and engage with people, right? That's where the generosity thing comes in. That's where the sharing your work just for sharing your work comes in. Now, if you do have a competitive streak and it bothers you, now that's another thing, right? But if it's just like fear talking and you're just like, it's another excuse not to engage. Because let's face it, all those little like words from our families that screw us up when we're kids, they're hard to. They're very, very sneaky sometimes. I just think it's funny that like your family was like so into music and thought art was like not awesome. I think it's much easier to make a living as a miniature painter these days, or make a decent amount of money anyway, than as a musician. Like as far as having a like something you can utilize. I always look back at my art school days and all those people and wonder if any of them are doing art these days. And if any of them are actually making a living at it like I am, right? So, well then, if you're gonna yell at Kerniko, Zachary, you better paint the quarterly. Yeah, he is. Yeah, keep contributing. Keep contributing. It's all good. Oh, I'm going to put a big blob of water. I just reminded myself. There's my little primer. It's starting to dry out a bit. I'm going to put this huge blob of water. I'm going to run it all around the edge of my palette. That's going to isolate that primer in the middle, and it's not going to dry on the edges. So I will have less to scrub out at the end of the day. That's my little trick. So I'm layering this brown and gray in here and getting this nice effect. I'll go up probably with a lighter gray as well. So I'm not pulling these colors like hugely away from each other, I guess. It's like I'm not trying to do a brown earth and then a gray stone. I'm being more organic about it. Trying to work both colors into various aspects of the scenery, and I will do a dry brush as well. And I want to just spend a little time picking out details and making this look a little nicer. That's cool, Roger. Yeah, just do it for the fun. It can be hard, though. It can be hard to get past that block. Although, you can also, if you've got the brain for it, you can also treat it kind of as a learning experience, right? When you look at those winners and you feel intimidated, then ask yourself, okay, what's something I really love about this model that I could maybe learn to do, right? Like if you feel like one model is just like so much tighter than your work, you could investigate ways, like really look at how they do their highlights and maybe try. I mean, I always recommend this. I don't know how many people actually do it, but one of the best ways that you can learn if you're having trouble iterating, if you've gotten to a point in intermediate land where you're at a kind of like a block, is to, since those are all Reaper models and people are painting them, they're really easy to get, right? Because Reaper doesn't really have anything much that goes out of print. So buy the same model they painted, screenshot that picture of their work, and try to copy it. Try to copy what they did. And in doing so, you'll get an understanding of how they paint. And it may be different. It may give you ideas. You may be like, oh, their highlights are so broad, or wow, their shadows are so dark, right? And all of these little things can also be fed into your painting style then to improve it and to get you closer to what your brain says is like, like tops, right? So even if you paint that mini for the quarter, or if you don't paint the mini for the quarterly contest, then I would say afterwards, choose one of the winners that you really love and try to paint it in that style. Like, try to paint a copy of it. Don't ask them how they did it. Just try to figure it out with your own knowledge and your own techniques. And you can learn so much that way, guys. It's an actual exercise at that point. It's like you're going to paint school, Anne's paint school, and I'm like, all right, here's a Derek Schubert model. I want you to copy it. And you'll be like, but no, the point is not that you should copy it and be Derek Schubert. The point is that you try to copy it, and in doing so, you learn new techniques. You learn like how a different way to apply your techniques, right? Yeah, it was very rainy, and it's big drops. So yeah, I would recommend that to any of you that want to get better, especially if you feel like you're plateauing. You could be just kind of like doing the same kind of motions again and again on miniatures, trying to copy a mini you really love from someone else, even if it's a very high level person, can be a real education. And you should take your time, right, and go slow and kind of really look at what they're doing and why they're doing it. You do have to get a good picture, right? And make sure you can get a good picture of the model that's pretty high res so you can see what they're doing. And then try to copy that, and just, it'll show you a direction, usually, like what you need to do to get better. Like, I did that when I was learning. I did it with one of Jen's models, Jennifer Haley, when I was painting Confrontation. I think I tried to copy one of her Fianas. And what it made me realize is that I needed to work more on my blending, right, on my layering. So it essentially highlighted for me one of the reasons I really loved the piece, and that the only part of it that I really like needed to work on was the layering, right? It also made me a lot more aware of how narrow my highlights were. Jennifer's highlights are, at least in that time, she's, of course, just like all of us, her style has changed over the years. But her highlights at that time were very, very broad. Her work had a lot of kind of muted pastel colors kind of going on. Yeah, Derek's style, I agree. It is similar to the Rackham stuff. Richard. Yeah, that's a really good way to level up, actually, Roger. When I was painting for eBay, I would do that. On every model, I would pick one thing that I wanted to put a little bit of extra work into. And in that way, I slowly got better, even though I was painting for money, even though I was trying to paint faster and trying to, I was taking some shortcuts because I needed to put models up in order to get paid, right? But I would let myself try hard on one aspect of each model. So I would slowly still be improving and not stagnating. So I'm just taking my good brush and I'm just stippling a bit to bring out these stones and start making everything look really much more organic. I'm going to be going a lot more gray up on the stone and the big stones out here. I'm going to be leaving more of my brown on the falling earth and the stuff like here. But it's because I'm using the same colors just in different percentages. I'm just using a little bit of gray to touch up some of these stones. It's looking integrated, right? It's looking organic. So then when I bring in some like lighter orangey tans And I start picking out some more of these the earth stuff that'll bring it a little bit more. Zachariah. Yeah, well, Luca's in chat, you know. You could have just let him do it. Of course, he's distracted, probably prepping for his stream. You were getting a coffee. You were distracted. You dropped the ball, so Zachariah had to step in. So, Zachariah, are you saying that you're Luca's mini-me? Oh, the rain is definitely intermittent, so maybe Kiki and I have a chance to not get... Put the right glasses on before you start. Yep. Nobody knows, I think, Kodiak. That's why they were asking earlier in the stream. Oh, Bretonians, you're painting the new brats, huh? Is it for you or for a commission, Luca? I was looking at some of those last night. I love Warhammer Fantasy, but I don't have, like, the original Fantasy was the game I originally got into Warhammer with. So I'm very happy they brought it back, but I'm so sad because I've got nobody to play with out here. So it's like, I'm going to wait and see what they do with some of my favorite armies, and then maybe I'll jump in later. Oh, yeah, you want an army for once? Yeah, I've gotten to that point, too. I wish that there were people I could play with. I probably should just ask in our local mini painting club to see if anybody plays. Because I really loved Fantasy. I had such a good... Even as unbalanced as it was at that point in time, I still had a load of fun playing with my friends. Even though my army would lose and lose and lose. Because I'm not a great tactician. And I was playing Wood Elves, so... It was Wood Elves against Chaos most of the time. Wood Elves against Chaos and Bretonians did not fare very well. And Empire. Like the three worst matchups, arguably. Oh, you'll show it. Maybe I'll go over and maybe watch for a little bit then. I want to see the models. Show us the minis. Show us the minis, Luca. Oh, something special, huh? For the new quarterly? Ah. Alright, I'm curious. I won't enter, I promise. But I'm curious. Maybe we'll, whatever the new quarterly model is, maybe we'll paint that on the stream. I'm looking for new models. So just a little bits of touches of gray in here just to bring up some of this stuff. But yeah, I'm always looking for new stuff to paint that's cool. So if they're doing something special for it, maybe I'll go buy one. So you can see how I'll just kind of go in and, yeah, it takes time, but it gives you a really beautiful naturalistic base. We can definitely bring up the colors a bit warmer. Like right now the ground is really like bleached and dead, which, you know, adds a necromancer and all that. So that's not a... Ooh, judges for the quarterly as well as the popular vote. Yeah, cool. But yeah, so when it goes live, be sure to tell me what it is, guys. Hey, Luca, do you have a lot of finished pictures of your stuff? Do you have it on Instagram or somewhere? Or do you do putty and paint or something like that? I was just thinking I always like end up like kind of like running into your streams and like you're in the middle of something and I seldom get to see the finished pieces. Yeah, Instagram? Is it Miniatures Den on Instagram? Oh, you have a Pegasus Knight. Awesome. Oh, there we go. Thanks. Okay. Yep. Instagram.com miniature stand. Got it. Got it. Got it. Super. I'll go over and take a look. Maybe I'll put my money where my mouth is, guys, and I'll get a model that Luca has painted, and I'll try to paint it in his style. Because I always tell you guys to do that, and I haven't showed you. I used to do it, but I haven't showed you, and I haven't done it in a while. And Luca's style is very different from mine, so it'd be kind of fun to make myself do that. Very hard to copy, huh? Well, that'll be fun then. Because the point isn't to, like, you know, learn to, like, copy it precisely. I barely have any idea what you're doing. Well, I won't have any idea what you're doing either when I'm starting, so... I don't know. I'm going to look through his Instagram and I'm going to see which model I really like, and what I can get, you know, or what I might actually own some stuff that he's painted. So if I've got something, then that would be kind of fun, and we could do that on my Saturday stream. Oh wow, we got another 6 reviews at 9. Awesome. Thanks, Turgeon. We've almost got 10. We've almost got 10. We need to get West of the Moon to 10. We definitely need to. Definitely need to get to 10 on West of the Moon. Yeah, so close. That's all right. And 28 reviews on East of the Sun is fantastic. I'm so happy. Yay! Thanks, everybody. I don't have enough self-loathing to paint like Luca. Oh, man. Oh, well, maybe I'll learn. Maybe it'll be a horrible, like, maybe it'll be like Cthulhu. Maybe learning to paint like Luca, maybe trying to copy a Luca paint job is like opening one of those books in Call of Cthulhu, where it just invades your mind with insanity and you have to fight it off. Does that sound, you're like a noir painter. Cigarettes and crippling depression. I don't know if I can go there. I had crippling depression at one point in my life. I don't think I need to, like, go back there. Maybe I can channel a little bit of my memories, though. Maybe I'll try to get... I'm not going to smoke, though. I'm sorry. I'm so anti-smoking. I've never smoked in my life. Not anything, not ever. I like my lungs and I don't want cancer. Look into the abyss, it'll stare back. All right. I'll try to put... I was an actress. Like, I did do some acting during school, college and high school. So I'll try to, like put on my best, like, Luca, you know, like, I'll have to wear a tank top, I guess. Like, I'll surround myself with, like, clouds of incense smoke instead of cigarette smoke. To get into the appropriate mood. But no, I can angry and depressed paint. I've angry and depressed painted before. So... Greatest imposter syndrome moment and multiply it by 400. All right. What geisha have you been painting? What company is it from? Because I really like Japanese stuff. Well, now I have to go over to Instagram and... Where's my Insta? There it is. It's thinking about it. It's thinking about it. Miniatures Den. Oh, I'm not even following you. This shows how little I go to Insta. Alright, yeah, I'll have to look at all this and see if there's something I own that... Ah. This is doomed. I'll have to look. Alexandros. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't know. CSU. Let me look it up. Sandros models. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that looks gorgeous. Like just the model is very classical. I have a book on kimono, and I've always wanted to do. How big is she? Is she a 75? Yeah, I'll check. I'll check for her later today on IG. If you put her on Instagram. I have to take the Kiki for a walk after stream, but I'll. Oh, and it's 11. Cosplaying as Luca. No, that's too much. Oh, okay, hold on. It's sitting here. It's gonna. Oh yeah. Ooh, pretty. She's almost like Eldar Harlequin. Harlequin geisha. It's purty. It's so purty. So purty, everybody. Yeah, click on that. Yeah, purty. Very, very purty. I like how the you get the peach on the top of the arm and down to the magenta and purple. Sweet, sweet. Yeah, very, very Harlequin. Oh, a lot of issues in the casting. That's a bummer. Oh, bye, Trojan. Thanks for the news on the reviews. I haven't checked lately. Luigi, yeah. No! That's just terrible. That's just terrible. But that's a gorgeous model. Good job, Luca. Do you have other angles? I assume you have other angles around somewhere. I'm interested. Your skin tones are super saturated. That would make me like, I would be like, oh, yeah. But it would be good practice for me to do that. Really, Luca dressed as Sailor Moon one full day? I missed that. Like, Lord. You feel the same when you do them desaturated, right? See, this is why, guys. This is why it would be cool to do this. Because normally doing a skin tone that yellow, that saturated, would like seriously make my insides cringe up. But if I make myself do it and actually execute on it, I can learn from it, right? And I might end up really liking it, like when I really did. The things that are cringe to you, pay attention to that, like in painting. The things that you think, oh, yuck, I don't know, I don't like that. Try it, because once you make yourself do it and you see the upsides of it, then you might suddenly go, and you might find yourself kind of starting to go in that direction. Like, a lot of times we resist stuff because we're just like, ugh, like we don't think we can pull it off. But then when we make ourselves do it, we're like, I can see how this works, So, was the alchemist model. Yeah. In dung. I don't think your painting is dung. We just make such different choices. I used to be a super, super saturated painter. But then I love naturalism so much that I went very heavily in that direction because it just makes my soul happy. So, but that doesn't mean my soul can't be happy doing other stuff too. And sometimes I feel like now I'm getting into just a slump with stuff, so switching it up would be good. That also works in Monster Hunter. All right, folks. Well, we didn't get everything done on the base, but I hope you can see it's really pretty. Like it's so naturalistic. It's so non-Luca. I should put like a giant ochre glaze over this whole thing. But yeah, so we are going to bring up the saturation a bit on our basing because we don't want the model to totally like stick out like a sore thumb. Non-Luca base, yeah, for sure. But yeah, so we will bring up our saturation a little bit, but probably not to the extent that Luca would. And we still have to tackle the backside. We have to put a lot more colors in this. So we didn't actually get to green stuff today. I didn't think we would. Yeah, amazing dirt. Ooh, I can paint amazing dirt. All right, well, I do love painting rocks. I cannot lie. So, all right. Anyway, I am off to take Kiki for a walk, and then I'm going to spend some time on Luca's Instagram and see what I can see. See if I can see something that we can try to copy. All right. Although that geisha's tempting, except you say she has a lot of prep issues. So, I'll have to think about it. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'm going to turn you over to Luca full time. And I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And I'll see you again tomorrow. We're going to work on... Wait. What are we on tomorrow? We are on... Cute Little Mouse. We're on Cute Mouse. Cute Mouse. We were working on her NMM before. So either we'll do that or I'll decide to blow and get through the lantern. Yeah, you take care too, Luca. All right. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.